Prosecutors are no longer trying to put YNW Melly behind bars for life. Instead, they are now pushing for the penalty in his court case. This is very serious, so let's get straight into it. The state of Florida just filed in 66 pages of new evidence against YNW Melly. In these new pages of evidence, they are claiming that after running ballistics reports for the last few months, all signs of who did the act towards Juvy and Sakchaser were sitting in YNW Melly's seat inside of the vehicle. Here's the photo of where everyone was sitting inside of the car. YNW Bortland, being the driver of the vehicle, had YNW Melly sitting directly behind him. That leaves YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser both sitting on the opposite side of the vehicle. Using what's called the stick method, they used plastic sticks to match the trajectory of a firearm that could have been used in YNW Melly's seat. The trajectory from YNW Melly's seat showed a perfect match to where YNW Sakchaser and YNW Juvy were affected once they were brought to the hospital. Also in the new evidence reports, it claims that once the act was done inside of the vehicle, law enforcement were able to use YNW Melly's cell phone as a GPS tracking device. They were able to see YNW Melly walking around in a circle motion at the time law enforcement believes the act was done. The theory they have is that after the act was done inside of the vehicle, YNW Melly then stepped out of the car and roughed up the vehicle from the outside using his firearm. This would to make it appear as if their car went through a drive-by, and that would be their excuse on why YNW Sakchaser and YNW Juvy sadly passed. Now this theory seems true, as they ended up finding shells from the firearm outside of the vehicle. It was under some patches of dirt and just along the concrete. They ended up also finding shells of a firearm inside of the car as well. They found it under the floor mats in the vehicle, and both shell casings from outside and inside all match the same. And with the casings being found inside the vehicle, it was right beside YNW Melly's seat. Also shown in the evidence files, law enforcement states these particular cell phones, which were both iPhone 10s, were on the T-Mobile network. And so T-Mobile has a very interesting feature where it will tell you the environment the cell phone is in. So from these cell phone records, I can tell you the exact moment demons got out of the car and staged the drive-by location. Now YNW Melly had a cell phone in his jeans pocket from my understanding. This is a huge deal in the case, as I mentioned earlier. On YNW Melly's personal cell phone, law enforcement found case-breaking evidence as well that was in the 66 pages of new evidence found. As found in the case files, it states, then also, we have a video of Mr. Demons admitting to doing an act towards two individuals in the head. This video was on Mr. Demon's cell phone, which was brought to my office by Jameson Francis, and that is how we had that, and that is all of the evidence that Your Honor has. Now on YNW Melly's cell phone that was being held by his music manager for the last few months, otherwise known as 100K Management, there's a video of YNW Melly. From my understanding, it's a short 10 to 15 second video of YNW Melly admitting to doing it towards Juvy and Sakchaser, while at the same time using hand motions mimicking as he's using a firearm, which is not a good look and will be used against him on March 7th. Now all of this evidence is crucial against YNW Melly when you hear the timeline of what happened the day that Sakchaser and Juvy sadly passed. Law enforcement states that on October 26 in 2018, at roughly 3:30 a.m. in Florida, YNW Melly, YNW Juvy, YNW Sakchaser, and YNW Bortland were all at a recording studio. When their session was over, video evidence from the recording studio shows the four YNW boys hopping inside of their Jeep and heading home. It shows the driver of the vehicle on this night being Cortland Henry, otherwise known as YNW Bortland, who was arrested originally with Melly at the start. He had YNW Melly sitting directly behind him, with the other two sitting on the opposite side of the vehicle. YNW Bortland was driving on a back road home to allegedly skip early morning traffic. Law enforcement believes that the car was then pulled over to the side of the road. A distraction was then made inside of the car, which is when YNW Melly did the act towards Juvy and Sakchaser. Law enforcement believes it was YNW Melly who did the act, as YNW Melly sent his girlfriend at the time 2 weeks later a Snapchat saying, "I kept Bortland with me because at the end of the day, he did one of the realest stuff in my life." This could be YNW Melly's way of thanking Bortland for remaining loyal. After the act was done, however, GPS tracking devices were able to tell that the Jeep was then driven into a side parking lot where nobody was in sight and there was no surveillance cameras anywhere to be seen. YNW Melly and then YNW Bortland roughed up the vehicle to make it appear as if a drive-by happened before finally driving Sakchaser and Juvy to the hospital. YNW Bortland ended up driving Sakchaser and Juvy to the hospital 40 minutes after it all went down to get medical attention, while YNW Melly was then seen allegedly running home. YNW Melly was not in the vehicle when Bortland drove Sakchaser and Juvy to get medical attention. It almost seems as if he ran off, trying to hide the firearm that was used. That is what the law enforcement are thinking right now anyway. But it wasn't until February 13th where YNW Melly was brought into jail for the act that led to Juvy and Sakchaser's passing. YNW Bortland was also then brought into jail as well and charged with 2 counts of accessory and helping YNW Melly cover it up. Now, new footage of YNW Melly just yesterday at the time of this recording was released of him in court. YNW Melly had a very important court hearing, and it involves the prosecutors in YNW Melly's case has now been trying to get in contact with this ex-girlfriend to have her speak at the court trial. They believe that YNW Melly has told her much more than just this simple text message, and prosecutors want to know exactly what he said. YNW Melly and his lawyers are obviously trying to reject this from happening, as his lawyers put out a statement asking the judge to not let this happen. As posted by YNW Bortland on his Instagram story, he shared a photo of YNW Melly at this court hearing just yesterday, with a lot of fans feeling very worried about YNW Melly, as he's not really even looking as himself anymore after spending years on years in jail. His trial though is starting, and YNW Bortland seems very confident, with Bortland adding a caption to this photo by saying, "About to surprise the world," meaning that he actually believes YNW Melly is innocent. And I mean, who else would know better than the guy with Melly on the night it happened? But that is a YNW Melly update for everyone watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it and don't forget to subscribe. It's been District Trending and I'm out. Peace.